Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the On the Sideline podcast with Jackson and Kyle. I am Jackson, and I am joined here, as always, by the guy who did not predict the Bengals and Rams to go to the Super Bowl at the beginning of the year because nobody did. Kyle, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I got half of that. I also got a B in the AFC team, so there we go. I was pretty close.
Yeah, basically there.
Yeah, I mean, I give myself credit. No, I don't give myself credit for that. But I mean, what a crazy story. I mean, just going big picture on this. I mean, you want to get right into the game, or how are you doing? How are you?
Yes, I am good. I am doing great. I mean, craziest NFL season of all time, Kyle.
It has to be up there. I mean, this is insane what happened with this team. I mean, nobody would have picked this team to begin the season. Nobody would have picked all these scenarios. I mean, just the number of crazy situations that we saw just these last 2 weeks have felt like a full season. Never mind the 18 weeks before it and also that kind of lame wild card round. I mean, these last 2 weeks have been just, absolutely insane. I don't know how anybody's a fan of any of these teams and still breathing. I mean, it's just been insane watching these games.
Yeah, and you think about like even like week 18 was like absurd with the all the chaos that happened with the Colts losing to the Jaguars and that creating this scramble to see who's going to get the number 7 seed. It seemed like it was only a couple weeks ago we were talking about should teams intentionally tie, and now we have the Bengals and the Rams playing for the Lombardi Trophy in 2 weeks. 2 weeks from today. I mean, what is going on?
Yeah, crazy stuff. Absolutely insane. No, is there a cat?
Yeah, my cat apparently wants to be let outside. Maybe I will let my cat out of my office. Well, you want to kill 30 seconds?
I can kill 30 seconds. So obviously the big news today is, Mac Jones was named a Pro Bowler in the AFC. So that's what we're here to talk about is Mac Jones' fantastic season, getting to the AFC Pro Bowl as an alternate. No, I'm just kidding. We're not actually going to talk about that. So do you want to start with the Africa Cup of Nations games, the CONCACAF qualifying game, or do you want to go straight into football?
I was so confused. I didn't even know what you were. I was a little bit unsure if you were even speaking English there for a second. Let's talk about football. By the way, yeah, like cat, like on the door, like on all, like on his hind legs, like you wanted to come in here. When I came in here, you wanted to go. Anyways, cat issues. But yeah, let's talk about football. Let's start off with. Let's go chronologically here. The Cincinnati Bengals. Amazingly, for a second, it was going to look like for the third time the Bengals would play the 49ers in the Super Bowl. That will not happen. But the Bengals will play the Rams in the Super Bowl. I mean, I don't think I've ever been more wrong about a team heading into the season than I was about Cincinnati. You think about there's just all of the just sort of the retrospective of what are they doing drafting Jamar Chase. You got to fix the offensive line. They still kind of do have to fix the offensive line, but they're going to try to win a Super Bowl before they do that. You have, Zach Taylor has not did not impress his first couple of years as a head coach. You tweeted out the fact that we picked him as the number 32nd overall head coach heading into this season. And just everything has gone just exactly how they would want. Joe Burrow has taken that next step and then some. This wide receiving core is fantastic. This defense has played really well. Just an incredible run this team is on.
Yeah, I mean, I think even the most realistic, optimistic Bengals fan, there's always some crazies in fan bases. I think the most realistic Bengals fan who was optimistic about this team could say, okay, Joe Burrow stays healthy. We have a couple nice games and we finish 7-10 and build towards the next season. I don't think anybody in the world picture this happening. I mean, we had Zach Taylor 32nd on our coach rankings. We had this team picked 4th in the AFC North. I mean, we had the AFC North completely wrong. So we had this team picked 4th in the AFC North. I think they're poised to potentially become tied for the biggest Super Bowl odds to winner ever. The 1999 Rams were also 150 to 1 odds to win the Super Bowl, and they could tie that. So this would be the biggest upset. This would be the biggest surprise run in Super Bowl odds history. So I mean, it speaks volumes to what they were able to do this season.
Yeah, it's incredible stuff. Let's just get into the game. It didn't go too well, and again, we're talking about Zach Taylor, and sort of this was not a great day for Zach Taylor. I mean, this was not a great performance by Taylor and by the coaching staff. I thought that, again, all these first down runs were silly. I thought, and this was, they created a blueprint on how to torch this Chiefs defense, and they weren't going through it. But in a weird sort of way, them getting down the way it did kind of helped them, because it sort of forced them to have to start throwing the football more. It is similar to the last time they played, where like being down was almost a blessing for Cincinnati, because it allowed them to say, okay, Joe Burrow, go do your thing.
Yeah, and even then, sometimes they weren't like they were still running the ball on first down, and I mean, it was incredible. It was a super conservative game plan. I really didn't get it. I tweeted this out in the first half. I didn't keep track of the second half, but it still was a lot of first down runs. So in the first half, the Bengals offense on first down was 1 for 4 passing with 6 yards. I think 2 of them were screen attempts, if I remember correctly. And then they had 8 carries for 31 yards, which isn't terrible, but you look at it, it's a 3-yard carry, a 1-yard carry, a 3-yard carry, a 23-yard carry. That's good. A 3-yard carry, and then a -2-yard carry right at the end of the first half. I mean, they're constantly setting themselves up with 2nd and 7, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, these sort of horrible situations that every analytic in football says this is the worst thing you could do for your offense, is set yourself up with 3rd and long because of bad running plays. I mean, the big thing was that they converted a lot of these third downs, and a lot of that had to do with Joe Burrow making really good plays and really good reads, making really good throws. They were 8 of 14 on 3rd down by the end of the game. And it was just Burrow time after time making really big plays. And I thought the CJ Uzomah injury was going to kill them, because I was like, he's such a huge target for these third down situations. And they just still got through everything. They continue to fight, and the defense stepping up in the second half obviously played a big role, but they were able to figure out a way to get 27 points when they were really struggling.
Yeah, you look at their like EPA on first and second downs, the rush, the pass differential of it's -14, as in -0.14 per play when they ran the ball, and then it's plus 0.15 when they threw the ball. So that's a pretty big differential, and it was even bigger at certain points during this game. But here's what I'll say, and Luke Brown saying Zach Taylor never going to get love from Jackson. And listen, I still stand by. I think what Zach Taylor does a very poor job at is these game plans. I think he's had several times where he's had some rough game plans going into games. But what I will give him credit for, and this is kind of an interesting difference between him and Andy Reid, and we saw this last year in the Super Bowl as well, and I think you make some comparisons with Taylor and with Bruce Arians, is that while Taylor might not always come in with the best game plan, he's not afraid to change things. And we saw that especially defensively with Cincinnati, where they came in with what I thought was the right game plan. Let's play cover 2 zone. Let's just play that. It's the best coverage. They weren't afraid to mix things up. And I think that's the positive of Zach Taylor, is he doesn't have a big ego. He's not stuck in his ways. He's not going to make sure he does something. He's not afraid to change some stuff. So is there stuff he does I don't like? Absolutely. But as long as you're willing to make adjustments, you can still be a good head coach. And I do think Zach Taylor is at least a solid head coach who's going to the Super Bowl, I think, on the strength of a good roster. But, that's the positive of Zach Taylor.
Yeah. And he might have been reading my tweets at halftime, because I also tweeted that part out where I said, they have to mix things up, because the first half, this Chiefs offense was just humming. Like, literally, I mean, this is the second game I wrote has happened to them. People will say, oh, well, they fell apart in the second half both times. They did. But in the first half, it's like they couldn't get a stop to save their life. The only stop happened on the last play of the first half because the Chiefs made a mistake. Right. I mean, we'll be honest with that. I mean, the whole the 2 deep zone, I think, is the right game plan against the Chiefs. Like you said, it's the right strategy. But the problem is it was too easy. Patrick Mahomes didn't have to make reads. He knew what the coverage is going to be. And they were basically rushing 3 or 4 guys basically the entire first half, and just got nothing to him. Nothing was getting to him. The Chiefs offensive line did a really good job in this game, or in the first half of this game. And it was just, actually, I think they did a good job in all this game. And we're going to get to that in a second. I thought they did a really good job this entire game, but the Chiefs, and then the Bengals adjusted. Like you said, they took some chances. They made Mahomes guess a few times, and then they started seeing more and more success in this game.
Yeah, exactly. And again, you go back to that Super Bowl, which this is the quote unquote blueprint game for the Kansas City Chiefs. And, it wasn't just cover 2 zone. It was a lot of like cover 2 man, which we saw Cincinnati do some, or like just playing man coverage, but doubling Hill and doubling Kelsey, that kind of stuff. really worked. So, and the other thing I should mention with Zach Taylor, and this is kind of something that maybe, we don't necessarily think about a ton when we talk about head coaches, but it's a very real thing, is like, look at all these young players that are on the offensive side of the ball, especially, which is sort of his, side of the ball, that are just performing really well. Like T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow. These are young guys who are coming through, and development is in part coaching. And I think you have to give Taylor credit for that, for getting these guys to perform at the level they have been.
Yeah. And then, I mean, it was crazy too, because this offense, like, I didn't think it was bad in the first half, but it certainly wasn't to the level we expected. And then it was
Hmm.
just like we said, I thought it was a super conservative game plan to start the game offensively. And I didn't like some of the play calls they made, but then finally one of them broke. Samaje Perine took that run to that screen pass to the end zone. And I'm just like, okay, you saw this 3 or 4 times already this first half, and then Perine just breaks one. And it was just like, okay, well, they're kind of back. And it made it a little bit of a close game, and that changed everything. And they were able to get the stop at the end. Yeah, so I mean, I think there is aspects to this that Taylor did well. I thought there were things he struggled at, but for the most part, I mean, the Bengals players executed, and that's why they won this game. And I think a lot of that came down to the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, we have Joseph in the chat saying the Bengals defensive coordinator deserves defensive coordinator of the year. Every week, his halftime adjustments have been money. Both games holding KC to 3 after the half. He's been very. I mean, he has some very good moments. He did get lit up by Mike White, but other than that, which I'm sorry, I can't get out of my head. That was the thing to happen. But as a whole, this has been a very impressive showing especially from the defensive Bengals coaching staff. And I do think one other aspect of this is we can't talk enough about Joe Burrow, right? I mean, and what Joe Burrow has done this season. And I kind of want to talk about that for a second, and then maybe we can lead into the Mahomes stuff, because on this podcast, on the preview show, I said, well, everyone was kind of saying, well, the Chiefs have Mahomes. I was kind of saying, I don't know if there's a definitive better quarterback playing in this game. Well, Joe Burrow looked like an elite quarterback right now, and he's only in his second season.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of said that last week about Allen, and it kind of proved to be true. Allen was, matching matching Mahomes stride for stride. And I guess the
Mm-hmm.
thing is, at this point, like, you have to have Burrow in your top 6 quarterbacks in the NFL. Like, I mean, he has arrived legitimately. He's in that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's just, obviously I think the characteristics about him are great, but there's just intangibles about him too. It's just like they had
Mm-hmm.
multiple third downs where he's escaping Chris Jones and running for a first down. He
Right.
had another escape for a first down too. He made some mistakes in this game. I mean, the interception wasn't a good throw, and then he inexplicably had another throw to
Right.
Bolton or whatever in the middle or on the
Mm-hmm.
sideline. I didn't understand what that throw was at all, and he almost
Yeah.
cost him the game basically. But for the most part, he was basically flawless in this game, and he executed. He made really good throws, and it was another kind of thing where he also kind of took what the defense gives him. They were trying to take away the deep ball. They had a safety shading Jamar Chase most of the game, and he was perfectly content with going to the other guys, making whatever play was necessary to win this game.
Yeah. And he did it all while starting every drive on a 2nd and 9.
Yeah, basic
Mm-hmm.
every 4 plays basically on a 2nd and 9.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Just really good stuff from Burrow. You're right. The couple mistakes you have to cut out. Let's talk about Mahomes. We got to talk about this now, because this is, I think, what a lot of people are pointing to as the big story. And Mahomes was amazing in the first half. I believe the passer
Mhm.
rating was 149.9 in the first half, and then 0 in the second half, which is quite the fall. I wonder if that's some sort of record, because it's almost as it's close to what the maximum difference could be. Obviously the most highest the passer rating could be is 158.0. The second half did not go as planned, and really it all kind of started with that blunder with 5 seconds left in the first half of throwing to Tyreek Hill when he should have just thrown the ball away and taken the 3 points, or maybe tried to throw one towards Kelsey, who was maybe a bit open. But throwing to Hill, also that getting kind of set up by Andy Reid, who wasted a timeout earlier in the game because he wanted to think about if he wanted to challenge a play, which is just an inexcusable blunder to make in his own right. So that kind of thing, that kind of started this snowball that, from that point on, the Chiefs went from scoring at will to only scoring 3 points in the final 7 possessions there.
Yeah, so I mean, the Chiefs in 2 games against the Bengals have 6 points in the second half combined.
Right.
And this is they
Is that
look like
good?
our that is not good. That's my
Okay.
analysis is
hmm
that's not very good. I mean this team it was a wrecking ball in the first half. I mean, this offense was incredible. It seemed like that they were just going to do anything they want, and it
hmm
seemed like everything we thought about the Chiefs was like, okay, they understand now how to kind of attack this defense. They know how to take things underneath. I was like, okay, Jerick McKinnon is just honestly McKilling this Bengals defense in the first half. And I'm like, okay, this is exactly what they needed to do. This was the roadmap to win this game. The Bengals adjusted, and the Chiefs had no idea how to adjust after that. They took Hill out of the game in the second half. They took a lot of the Chiefs guys out of the game in the second half. It seemed like besides Kelsey, and they just didn't have an answer, and it was a really bad performance. I thought the only group that played well in the second half was the Chiefs offensive line,
hmm
but they got credited with 4 sacks, which all had to do with Patrick Mahomes standing back there trying to run around in circles. Like,
Right.
I get it looks really cool when it works, but at the same time, like, he almost cost his team the game by losing 20 yards.
Yeah, no, and you could argue he did cost them the game with some other stuff. I mean, one interesting factor with the whole, the running versus passing thing as well is they typically, I'm always sitting here saying, why did the team run the ball so much? But again, looking, if this might be results oriented thinking, the Chiefs ended up running the ball effectively. Their EPA per rushing play was 0.16. That's a good. Usually, it's in the negatives. It's almost always in the negatives. Like if you get up 0, that's a good running day. So they had a significantly above average, in terms of that, which is great. But their passing was in a negative EPA day by Mahomes, and we just got to talk about that final couple of minutes, quite frankly, Mahomes just melted down. I mean, he fumbled the ball in field goal range. He tried to throw a pick 6 to Eli Apple, but Eli Apple didn't want it. And so then he threw another interception, set up by a great Jesse Bates play. Von Bell ended up picking it off. I mean, like that's what happened. And quite frankly, this is who Mahomes is to some degree. Like he does this. He has these bad performances at times. He's been a streaky player this season. And really, it's kind of all his career. He's had these streaks, and the highs are so high that we accept it. And Mahomes is still awesome. I'm not trying to say he isn't, but this isn't just a one-off. Mahomes had a bad quarter of football. This is Mahomes has some issues he has to work on.
Yeah. I mean, look, those 3 overtime passes, that's like backup quarterback level stuff, isn't it?
That's like Nathan Peterman stuff.
Yeah, he overthrew one guy. He
Mhm.
basically threw a pick 6 that wasn't to be, and then he threw it into double coverage. Like, I know that, both pass interceptions were tipped, so maybe like the interceptable passes thing, turnover worthy plays will have an effect on that. But at the same time, like it was double coverage that he threw into, and Jesse Bates made the play. Like
Right.
there was 2 guys back there, and then the other one, the interception. I mean, it was a good play by the defensive lineman, but
Sure.
the guy's also right in front of him, and he threw it and was like
Mhm.
hoping, okay, hope this gets over him. I mean, I didn't think it was it was a bad second half, and it was a horrible overtime period. I mean, I couldn't believe those throws he was making.
Yeah, the great overlap back in the chat with a 1999 super chat. We appreciate that overlap. 618. He says, "I've had a very bad week. Tom Brady is going to retire. The former St. Louis Rams and the criminal owner are going to the Super Bowl. And worst of all, there will be no penguin costume. When will it end?" Apologies, overlap. Hopefully, the podcast helps cheer you up a little bit. Apologies for your tough week. Poor overlap, Kyle.
Yeah, poor overlap. Pretty interesting week. Maybe we'll get to that at the end. We'll see how much time we have.
Yeah, we'll get to overlaps bad week.
No, we'll get to the Brady stuff.
Oh, right. Yes, perhaps. But yeah, what we're talking about, Mahomes. Yes,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. This was this just if Mahomes plays a typical Mahomes performance, then this game doesn't go down this way, and we hold Mahomes to a higher standard. We hold these star players to a high standard. You're not allowed to have this game in the AFC Championship game. If you do, your team isn't going to win a Super Bowl, and the Chiefs aren't. So it's like, was this the worst game you've ever seen? No. Like I think again, we can't forget about the first half that Mahomes had, and the only reason they were up what they were was because largely these broken plays where Mahomes was scrambling outside of the pocket and making something happen out of nothing. The Bengals defense wasn't even playing that bad early on. It was just Mahomes doing Mahomes things. That being said, though, again, you're supposed to be great. That's your expectation. And when you don't play great, they're paying you the contract that they're paying you for a reason.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I thought that there's plenty of mistakes. Like, look, being up 18 and losing a game, like, there's plenty of people who deserve blame for that. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to go and say this was all on Mahomes because they blew a 21-3 lead. But he certainly didn't help. He was
Right.
certainly one of the contributing factors to that. And I think that he did make a ton of mistakes in this game. And yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you said. We hold him to a higher standard because he is one of the best in this game. He's one of the best. I mean, we were on this podcast last week and you said Brady didn't really have a good of a game. And he came back
Mm-hmm.
from 27-3 and almost won the game. And it was
Right.
true. He didn't have that good of a game. But I mean, it's the level of performance we expect and what honestly the Chiefs need from him to win these games in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And again, it's a salary cap sport, right? So when you're getting that contract, you have to be able to perform to that contract. And like, it also should be mentioned, they had no business even being here because of the great work he did last week. So like, this isn't a Mahomes sucks, Mahomes is trash. Let's not forget, people are kind of compare. I've seen this on Twitter a lot of like Brady would never do something like this. Brady also did blow a 18-point lead in an AFC
Yeah.
championship game. So, and threw an interception late in that one. Like, everyone has had these moments, but this is one of those moments for Mahomes.
Yeah. Just a wild game. I mean, I really couldn't believe it. And then it seemed like it didn't seem impossible at one point that the Bengals are going to come back. And then, of all people, Eli Apple just comes up with this huge play right at the end of the first half, tackles
Right.
Hill in the backfield and keeps him in bounds, prevents the field goal from happening. Yes, it was a poor decision from Mahomes to do that, and a kind of
Mm-hmm.
a poor play call to not have Hill in the end zone on that situation.
Mm-hmm.
But Eli Apple comes up with this play after getting torched for
Yeah.
29 minutes and 45 seconds of the first half. And then he
Mm-hmm.
comes up and makes this play too. I mean, there's a number of heroes that you can go on for the Bengals, but it's just so funny that that guy of all guys makes this huge play.
Yeah, well, that's kind of been Eli Apple. I feel like this postseason, right? He's not a great player, but he's made these splash plays, and that's what he had the big play to set up the interception by the in the Titans game late in that one. So it's kind of a weird thing there. Also, though, I mean, uh, I verbally there was a couple of times I verbally shouted something out. I think during the fumble that wasn't recovered, and also the dropped interception by Eli Apple. I think I just shouted, "Oh no!" because like that would have been such a horrible. I thought for sure the Chiefs were winning after that dropped interception in overtime.
Could you imagine if they like scored a touchdown in the next play or something ridiculous like that? Like how insane would that have been?
Well, we can get to the second game in a second, but we saw something somewhat similar in the 49ers Rams game.
Yeah, I mean honestly. So yeah, I mean where else do we go with this? I guess
I
we
think there's
talked
things we
about
can.
we talked about big picture Bengal stuff. Um Chiefs going forward, I mean, they're still going to be good, obviously.
Mhm.
Um
But
but
they
I
have
mean,
some issues. I mean,
yeah.
not to interrupt too much, but listen, they can get kind of rid of that Frank Clark contract. That's a tough contract. They can at least get somewhat out from under that this season. I think if they cut him before June 1st, they have like 12 million in dead cap. If they cut him after, they have about 6 million in dead cap. So you can clear up around like 13 to about 15 million, I believe, is around that. So that'll help for sure. But you have to re-sign Tyrann Mathieu. You have to re-sign Orlando Brown. So they should be able to do it. But I also think they have some other just guys on the roster to have to re-sign too, who maybe don't have like huge roles, but they still are. If you don't sign them, you have to sign someone else. And I think they need a third option. I think that's got to be the number one priority. So I think people are going to say this is the Mahomes contract. I think the Mahomes contract is great. I think this is the Chris Jones and the Frank Clark contract coming back to bite them a little bit.
Yeah, and I mean, I think they got some nice pieces, and I think the big thing too is this team drafts usually pretty well. Like
Mm-hmm.
like I said, Bolton I thought was pretty good this season as a linebacker. I think he's going to be a player. I thought Willie Gay's, come around this season too. So I think they got some guys on defense that are going to hold up things. Um, I think, yeah, I mean, I think they're going to be fine, but there are going to be some things they have to address. And I do think that they can't just keep gambling on these running backs are going to figure things out in the postseason and be pretty
Mhm.
good and be that third option. They need to go get a receiver. They've
Yeah.
already been rumored with Odell Beckham. I don't know if that's going to happen at this point. He might
Mhm.
be too big of a contract now, but
Right.
there's going to be some guys still available.
Yeah, well, that's kind of make you think, why didn't they make that move to Odell? I think that, a lot of teams decided, oh, we don't want that. We don't want to take that chance. I think a lot of teams are wishing they took that chance right now, and the Ravens are very happy that they did. We also have a super chat, which says Slob D for hating on the Bengals. Not exactly sure what that means, but thanks for the super chat.
Oh, is he saying we're hating on the Bengals because what? I didn't pick them. I mean, I was
Uh,
pretty high on the Bengals towards the end of the season and picked them in the first round.
I was definitely a Bengals hater, but then I picked them. It's weird timing. If you told me this a week ago that I was being a Bengals hater, I'd be like, yeah, I was. But
Yeah,
I
you
picked them to
you
win this
picked
one.
them, and
Yeah.
then I was the one who was kind of higher on them in the regular season, and
Hmm.
then I didn't pick them. So I don't know.
Right. Anyway,
Um,
thanks for the
uh,
super chat.
yeah. Well, the thing is, going back to that real quick, I'm willing to bet that just about every team actually called Odell Beckham, or every contending team, to get a decent receiver late in the season for
Hmm.
basically nothing. I'm sure
Yeah.
every team basically called him. I'm sure he had his choice. I don't know. I mean, it is interesting
I
though.
don't agree with that. I think there's teams that didn't. I legitimately do. I mean, okay, he didn't. It's not like he got a big contract.
No, he didn't. But at the same time, I'm sure a lot of teams basically said, "Hey, come play for us for the season, and then you can get the." I mean, we don't know at the end of the day if the Chiefs offered him an opportunity. So I guess that's a fair
Hmm.
point. But it
I
is,
guess that's true. Hmm.
yeah. It is interesting. I do think they address it going forward. I mean, these three teams that we've seen now in the AFC, talking about these two teams and also the Bills, who've put together three a few really good games this postseason. I mean, that's the next 5 years of the conference guaranteed, right?
It feels that way. I mean, well, I mean, you even got to throw, the Chargers. I don't think are going away. I think that they have a ton of cap space coming up, and they have Justin Herbert, so they're very good. So there's a lot of, and who knows what's going to happen. It's tough to predict these things, but they all
Or
have
Mac
bright futures.
Jones? No, I'm just
Or
kidding.
Mac Jones, sure. There's a lot of teams with bright futures. We even got Will Lawrence or Wilson, Zach Wilson take that next step. Also, Zach Wilson was trending on Twitter. Not a great sign for Patrick Mahomes. Zach Wilson started trending due to the comparisons. Also, overlap 618 back in the super chat. You cannot keep me waiting 2 weeks. Can we get an early Super Bowl leans sometime this show? Also, Tom Brady to the 49ers next year with Gronk. LFG TB12. Um, we will still be podcasting. We're not going to wait until 2 weeks until after the Super Bowl. We will still be doing our regular twice a week podcast. What were we talking about, Kyle?
I think we just about everything. We can move on from there.
Well, no, I was talking about something, right? We were talking about the
The
Chiefs.
future of the AFC.
Yeah, the future of the Chiefs. Yeah, yeah, the Chiefs should be very good. I would still I guess here's one last question. I'll leave you with. I have 2 more points. Question first. Gun to your head. You can pick any quarterback you want to start a franchise with. Who are you taking?
Um, wow. I still probably I'm gonna get jumped for this. I'm still probably gonna take Mahomes. I mean,
Hmm.
like I can't the talent that he has, I'm not gonna say no. I mean, Burrow is definitely in the conversation now. And I
Right.
think you can feel great about that he's in the conversation among the best assets in football and maybe probably one of the best quarterbacks in football. But yeah, I mean, I still feel pretty good about the future of Mahomes.
Yes. Also, Brick Top. Slob D or love the Bengals, Jackson. Okay. Got it. Brick Top. Understood. Sure. I agree. I think give me Mahomes as well. I think just give me this bigger sample size. This is a bad year for Mahomes, and they lost in overtime in the AFC Championship game. That's the absurd standards that Brady has put on these guys now, where Mahomes has gone to 4 straight AFC Championship games, won 2 of them, and won a Super Bowl, and people are acting like he's not a big time player.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, I agree. It'll be interesting to see the Chiefs itself going forward, just because, I mean, I know you said they're
Hmm.
getting off those defensive contracts, but like there still is a $50 million bill due for one of your guys. So it's going to come to the point where, Kelsey's getting older. He's what, 32, 33, 34, something in that range. Tyreek Hill, is going to have to get paid too. I mean, there's going to be bills going forward that they're going to have to pay.
Yeah, Kelsey's actually a little bit shockingly young. They're only 32.
32. I mean, he'll be
Mhm.
33 by the season, right?
Let's see. Well, yeah. So October 5th, 1989 was his birthday.
Oh, good year.
I
Taylor
guess
Swift
so.
and Travis Kelce, same year. Speaks to
Uh,
the level of greatness.
okay, I guess so. Overlap 618. I'm officially on record as taking jackpot Joey Burrow to start my franchise. Don't at me. Too late. You have been added. Uh, Thank you again for the super chat. Overlap 618. Yeah, I mean, okay. I had one last point about this. Oh no, I already said the last point. All right, let's want to move on.
Yeah, we can go on.
Okay, all right. Uh, Niners at Rams. Kyle, I think this might have been the worst game of the past 2 weeks, and this was like in some weeks, some years would be the best game in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, it was a really good game.
Yeah.
There was stars performing left and right in this game that really came out to play, and it really seemed like that this game came down to at one point. There was other guys who performed, but it really seemed like that Cooper Kupp or Debo Samuel was going to make the biggest play in this game somewhere,
Hmm.
and in the end, once again, I mean, this guy's playoff run. I mean, Chase has been really good, but Cooper Kupp's playoff run has just been absolutely lights out. You talk about what he did last week to the Buccaneers. Again
Hmm.
with 11 catches, 142 yards, 2 touchdowns. I don't even remember his Arizona numbers, but I remember him being pretty good in that game too. This guy is absolutely insane right now. I mean, this guy is uncoverable. This team doesn't blitz. They throw so many guys in coverage, and he's still just open every time. I'm willing to say it right now. I don't even care. This is the best wide receiver in football right now. This is the best. This is the best. I mean, the guy's a yard after catch machine, like like a guy like Debo Samuel. He's a zone killing machine, like a lot of guys. He's a route running machine, like a Devontae Adams. I mean, he has the entire package. What doesn't Cooper Kupp do that anybody else does in football? I mean, this guy's just incredible, I think, overall. I think he's the best receiver in football, and he showed it again in this game.
He's incredible. I mean, again, 142 yards in this one, 183 the last one, 61 against Arizona. So racking up quite the statistics here. You're not sure what the record is, but I have to imagine he's getting close to it. This is you're right, an all-time run. And I feel like typically what he does well too is he's a great man beater. Like you just can't cover him one-on-one. And a lot of his work he's doing this past few weeks have been against zone as well. So it's not even like it's just a good schematic thing for him. And you think about, obviously, he had that big catch at the end of the Tampa Bay game to rip my heart out. And then he had a kind of again, another big play. It was 3rd down and 3. It would have been, I think it was like a 60-yard field goal from that spot. So I don't know if they take it there, take the long field goal. Do they punt? Maybe they go for it. He doesn't make them have to make that decision because gets open and Stafford makes a great throw there. You're absolutely right. I mean, Cooper Kupp is just he's a machine, and this has been an incredible year for Cooper Kupp. You think about his previous high in receiving yards was 1,100 in a season, although he's always been a good, he had over 90 catches in back-to-back years. Now he's sitting at nearly 2,000 yards and performing even better in the postseason. Just an incredible run.
Yeah. He was really good in this game, just brought them all the way back. I mean, so what side do you want to go on this first? Do you want to stick with the Rams first and just what they were able to do? I mean, this was a pretty incredible run of just another team once again and kind of going all in and also hosting their home Super Bowl 2 years in a row, weirdly enough. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, two teams kind of going all in 2 years in a row and being able to do it. They're in the Super Bowl. I mean, everything that we talked about with this team, with the Stafford trade and what that means, with the Von Miller move and what that means, with the Odell Beckham move and what that means. I mean, all of those came to fruition in this game and all of those guys showed up. I mean, you look at Stafford's numbers. He was really, I didn't think this was like a great game for Stafford. I thought he was good. I didn't know if this was a great game, but he still ended up with 337 yards and 2 touchdowns. You look at Odell Beckham. He's going to get a huge contract in the offseason, 9 catches on 11 targets, 113 yards. And just top to bottom, you look at all of these guys kind of showed up and had their moment time and time again. This is why you go and get stars.
Yeah, I typically, I think this wasn't a good day for Matt Stafford. Like, I think this was not a good, and quite frankly, this was just a sloppy day in a lot of ways by the Rams. This was not their best football. I mean, we saw a number of
Yeah.
drops early on. We saw Matt Stafford throw an interception. He had one that should have been intercepted. We'll maybe talk about that in a minute. I thought that this was not a perfect day from Stafford, but again, he made the throws when he had to. And when you're going to win a Super Bowl, different sides of the ball are going to have to step up. It's very rare for like an offense to just go off and win you 4 straight games or 3 straight games. It's very rare for a defense to step up and win you that many games. You're going to have a combination. But yeah, for the Rams offense, it was weird. It was like this Rams offense was really struggling. They were playing very sloppy football. They weren't like struggling to get stuff open, so you still felt like there was a chance. But once they went down 10, it's like a flip switch, and they remembered who they were, they remembered their potential, and they met it.
Yeah, for the most part, except for one glaringly bad throw.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
But yeah, I mean, I think part of this was San Francisco not really playing well in the second half of the game.
Mhm.
And obviously, I thought this was a tale, kind of like we thought it would be. I thought this was a tale of the two defensive lines in this game too. I thought both defensive lines were good in this game, despite combining for 2 sacks.
Mhm.
I thought there was a lot of pressure in this game. I thought there was a lot of physicality at the line of scrimmage. Um, and I thought San Francisco's defensive line was really good in the first half, and I thought Los Angeles' defensive line was really good in the last quarter of the game and limiting the 49ers' success.
Yeah. I agree. I think all of that was really good. Kyle, Matt Stafford's going to play for a Super Bowl. Like, how crazy is
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, poor Lions fans.
Mhm,
Not what
yeah.
you wanted. If you told them 5 years ago Matt Stafford would be playing for a Super Bowl in 22, they'd all be so
Mhm.
excited. And then they'd probably realize, wait, it's not for our team. And that's the case. It's not for your
Mhm.
team, unfortunately. It's for the Rams
Mhm.
here. And yeah, I mean, like I said, they went all in with this season. They wanted this guy. This is the guy McVay wanted, and he stepped up. I mean, the biggest play here for this game was right towards the end, and it was once again off of a what's it called? Off of a blitz from San Francisco late in the game. They had a. I'm looking for the play here.
Was that the
Uh,
Cooper Cup?
Cooper Cup 25
Yeah.
yards on a
Mhm.
3rd and 3. 49ers bring pressure. And then for whatever reason, this team continues to find guys over the middle on blitzes too.
Yeah.
Cooper Cup's wide open, gets the 25-yard gain, sets them up in the red zone, forces the clock all the way down to the 2-minute warning, and sets San Francisco up with a situation where Jimmy Garoppolo has to lead the team down the field with 1:45 left.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that like what the Bengals have to currently be working on right now is figuring out ways to cover Cooper Cup when he's in the slot. It seems like teams just like can't seem to figure this out. This is what led to Tampa Bay having Antoine Winfield covering him last week. It's like he's not a regular slot receiver. Like, don't treat him like that. Treat him like an elite receiver who is in the slot. Like, that's how you have to view it, because when he gets into the slot, it's like teams almost feel like, oh, okay, well, we're okay. Well, he's a slot receiver. We have stuff over there, especially when you're blitzing. No one's over the middle of the field. I mean, you got to figure something out. And that's part of how they're able to get guys open over the middle of the field,
Yeah.
is because they have guys who can get open over the middle of the field, whether it's Cup or, Odell, who we should also talk about. They have just good players.
Yeah, I mean, the Mike Hilton will help in that aspect, and I think the Bengals kind of have some of the keys to success. But I mean, at the same time, what we've seen from Cup, it just might not matter. Like, it might not matter what you do. He's going to find ways to get open. He's going to find spots in the zone to get open and get 10 to 12 yards a catch.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, that's something that, again, we're not going to get too far into the previewing stuff, but something that would worry me right away, for if you're a Cincinnati Bengals fan, is the thought of, how we have seen kind of this underneath stuff get open against Cincinnati, and the thought of like Cooper Cup and Odell being able to get that and run after the catch and stuff. But who knows how well, how much that'll happen. Kyle, Odell Beckham Jr. is also going to play for a Super Bowl. Like that's
Mhm.
another crazy thing here. I mean, I guess if we told Browns fans, if we told Giants fans 5 years ago, they'd probably be happy about that. I mean, what a couple months for him. He was cut from a team. He was people were wondering, would you even want him? Is he too much of a head case to have? Was it his fault or was it Baker's? Well, I don't think too many people are saying it was Baker's now. He has over 100 receiving yards, and I don't know if the Rams win this football game if they don't have Odell Beckham Jr. On their team, meaning he had a huge impact in an AFC championship game. Just incredible stuff.
Yeah, I mean, he was really good in this game. I mean, we did the numbers, and it was just like it just seemed like no matter what, Cup and Beckham were making big plays. And then the huge part of this game was after that dropped interception down the sideline. He makes I think, a pretty good catch given the hit
Yeah.
that he was delivered, hanging on to
Mhm.
that football and setting them up for that drive too. I mean, just time and time again, he came up with big plays. And another another situation talking about this Rams team. This is exactly why you go and get these guys. This is why you say,
Mhm.
you know what? Let's take the flyer. And it seemed to make even more sense after Robert Woods went down. And not having Robert Woods in this game, it's okay because Odell Beckham Jr. is their number 3 receiver, and everything worked out.
Yeah. Here's another wild thought. Eric Weddle is going to play for a Super Bowl. I mean, what an
I know.
absurd thing here. I mean, like, and he's actually became like he has this significant role in this Rams team too. It's not like he just out there. He had 5 tackles in this one, so just kind of a funny situation there on top of it. But I think to me, the headliner of the Rams right now is this is good. I feel good for Sean McVay. Of you think about a guy who went to a Super Bowl and fell apart. And he was largely blamed for that Super Bowl loss, getting a chance for redemption. Another very cool story there.
Yeah, I mean, it was great for him to be able to beat 49ers finally, kind of
Yeah.
get back. I mean, I think he, even after that Super Bowl against the Patriots, kind of said that this one's on me a little bit, and he didn't think he
Hmm.
did a good job. And then
Right.
now he gets back to that situation with another chance to do it. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think that there's number of reasons why it's great for him, and then it's just so interesting to see. So the state of football right now, you're looking at this, and it's like this whole Shanahan coaching tree now. Um,
Hmm.
I guess you probably started with Mike Shanahan. You go Kyle Shanahan, obviously in the NFC Championship game again.
Hmm.
You got Sean McVay. You got Matt LaFleur, who's perennial 1 seed in the NFC. You
Hmm.
got off of Sean McVay. You got Zach Taylor, who's also in the Super Bowl.
Sure. Hmm.
You just Cliff Kingsbury is also in that tree, I think, too, somewhat.
Hmm.
You just go through this list, and it's like all of these guys are kind of interlooped, and I mean, they're producing good football teams too. And this was the albatross on them, where it seemed like, okay, the Rams constructed this roster to beat any team in the NFL. And then the 49ers constructed a football team to beat the Los Angeles Rams. It
Right.
seemed like, yeah, I mean, it really came down to it, felt that way at times.
Hmm.
And he beat that. He figured out how to get through it. I mean, there was mistakes made in this game. I thought he made mistakes too, as far as time management and just decision making.
Sure. Hmm.
But they got through it. They got the monkey off their back, and now they're in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Matt in the chat saying Sony Michel will be the Super Bowl MVP. Yeah, that's kind of funny. I didn't think about that, but Sony Michel, the guy who was a big reason they lost the Super Bowl a couple years ago, now on their team. Yeah, I agree. I mean, it should be mentioned. Like, what were those challenges, Sean McVay? Like, what are we doing here? Whoever
Yeah.
fire whoever was telling you to challenge those plays. I don't know what you're thinking there.
Yeah, I mean, that made no sense.
Hmm.
He had a couple moments in this game where I was just like, "What are you doing, man?" But yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, at the same time, like, it worked out. I guess you could say that. But yeah, I mean, there certainly were mistakes in this game.
yeah, exactly. Speaking of mistakes, let's go to the 49ers now. So the two losing quarterbacks are gonna be getting a lot of blame here, and I think rightfully so. Although I guess the flip side with Jimmy Garoppolo is, Jimmy Garoppolo was Jimmy Garoppolo in this game. I thought, like, I didn't think he was awful. He did make some solid throws, like the one to Ayuk to get a big play that was almost a touchdown. Like that was a good throw. So he had some good moments. I think that this is Jimmy Garoppolo is who we thought he was. Basically, that's how I saw it.
I think the thing is just like kind of what you think about Jimmy Garoppolo the whole time is like if you pulled all of everybody watching that game right at the Rams field goal with a minute 46 left, if you
Hmm.
pulled everybody watching that game at that point, what percentage of people do you think said they would believe Jimmy Garoppolo would go down and help his team get a field goal?
Not a high percent. I think a lower percentage than the people that when Mahomes was in a very similar spot would have said that, even though Mahomes was reeling.
Yeah. Um, yeah, so I think I mean it just fell apart. And the big thing with the 49ers is, I mean, a lot of credit goes to the Rams defensive line. The running game was shut down. And I think if you looked at this game beforehand and said, okay, the 49ers are gonna run for 50 yards. If they're gonna run for
Hmm.
50 yards in this game, What's the final score? I think people are saying Rams by like 21. And the
Right.
fact that it was this close, you give the defense a ton of credit.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, the offense just didn't work in this game. They finally shut down the running game and figured that out, and it made them one dimensional. And I mean, you got who you got with your quarterback. And unfortunately, when you don't have one of the best 10 guys in football, it makes it difficult to win these games.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Garoppolo was close to being one of two quarterbacks in the past 11 years to be a below average quarterback and make the Super Bowl. The only other one was Peyton Manning. Other than that, every team has had using PFF grades, an above average quarterback make the Super Bowl. Right off the bat, there's that. Uh, and I think this is kind of the classic example of like, you know, listen, can you win a Super Bowl with a Jimmy Garoppolo? Sure, they came very close, but it's a lot easier to do it when you at least have a Matthew Stafford, and preferably when you have I'll say a Joe Burrow. I think people might, say, oh no, Stafford's better. I think Joe Burrow's amazing and the elite quarterback, but the better quarterback you have, the higher chance you have of going to the Super Bowl. That's my hot take.
Yeah, and
Hmm.
not necessarily hot. This is why these guys get paid the most in football. This is
Okay.
why this position's heavily invested in, typically meaning in number one picks. And you know what? I think even just looking ahead at this draft, everyone says this is a bad quarterback draft class. I'm willing to bet that there's going to be multiple quarterbacks taken in the top 10 because that's what this position is invested in. It's the most important position in football. And which makes it interesting because the 49ers went all in on this position in the draft
Hmm.
and for another game now, no touches for Trey Lance, the guy you spent your number three pick in the draft on, where
Hmm.
guys like, you look through the the NFL. Jamar Chase, who was pick number 6, um, or number 5. Either way, number
5. Yeah.
5, yeah. Pretty big impact for his team compared to Trey Lance.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, if the roles are reversed or if they switch teams, you can make the argument that both outcomes of these games are different. Even though Chase didn't have a huge statistical day, he took on a lot of double teams, which was the reason for it. Yeah. I mean, I'm very surprised that Trey Lance never even touched the football in this postseason. I'm surprised they didn't have some sort of place for him. I thought that would have made sense. And I thought that's kind of the part of why you drafted Trey Lance is not only because he could be a star quarterback someday, but because he could also add value to your team today. And they didn't take that start. So that surprised me.
It did because especially when look, I think the problem was with the 49ers is, especially offensively, you weren't going to have success if you weren't running the football. You just weren't. Like, I think if
Hmm.
anybody said, okay, the 49ers win this game, I don't think anyone's saying that the 49ers win this game by having a 30 to 19 run or pass run scenario situation, and Jimmy
Hmm.
Garoppolo is like 25 of 30 with a great game. Nobody's saying that's the situation. You had to have a good running game because that's how your team's built.
Hmm.
So if your run game is stagnating, why not throw a read option in there with Lance and let him see what he can do and maybe like open up things in the middle of the field?
Yeah, I agree. And again, there were also some. Like, I think about like that George Kittle miss early on in the game. Right, it's earlier in the game, so people don't pay as much attention to it. But like if you hit it, that can change things
Yeah.
as well. And also, that final interception was just not the best. I mean, it looked silly. I get the logic. Trying to make something happen late in the game. I don't even hate that. But also, like, he did kind of have George Kittle open earlier had he thrown the ball right away. So, it's a blitz. You got to get rid of the ball quickly. But again, that's who Garoppolo is. I can't crush Garoppolo for being Jimmy Garoppolo. You blame the team who, is trying to win a Super Bowl with him, and you can't really blame them because they're trying to move off of him. It's just that's what the 49ers were this year. They were kind of a matchup dependent team that were going to have to get the right matchups to go to the Super Bowl. Nearly did. And they got a couple breaks against Green Bay to get them here, but I don't think they had the firepower.
Yeah. So pretty good season from San Francisco. It's going to be interesting to see this team in the offseason. It's pretty obviously it's got to be Trey Lance time at this point, right? Unless like this Rogers stuff actually happens.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. Yeah, unless there's even been like some Tom Brady rumors, which I don't think is possible. But yeah, I mean that seems almost for sure the case that like I don't get how you could justify going with Garoppolo for another year after this, where I think you have to go with Trey Lance. Hey, one bright spot though is the defense looked really awesome in the second half of the season, and that's kind of the bright spot. Is maybe you have stuff to grow on there.
Yeah, I mean, this team could also. I mean, I think the big thing is going to be, you figure out your quarterback situation, and then add pieces to the secondary. But at the same time, I mean, with what you have with this defensive line and what you've been able to do this season, the coverage obviously got a lot better too. I mean, you have the pieces. This team is close. This team's really close. They're in a very difficult division, which is going to make it tough. But this team's close to competing for a Super Bowl again. I wouldn't be surprised if they're right back in the conversation next year.
Yeah, and the other thing you have is you can cut Jimmy Garoppolo and save $25 million. So
That helps.
Jimmy Garoppolo probably, I would assume that might be the way it goes.
Yeah, I'd imagine so. Maybe something
Hmm.
like that, or yeah. I mean, I'd imagine something like that's probably going to go down unless they find a trade partner, I guess.
Yeah, and they have some free agents. They don't have a ton, so they can keep a lot of this team together. And again, you have this rookie contract now, and you're getting 25 million. Maybe you could add a piece through free agency. So you're right. Uh, the entire franchise now hinders on how good is Trey Lance. I think for San Francisco.
Yeah, and that's how football works now. It's all about what you have at the
Right.
quarterback. Yeah.
hmm Yeah, I think so as well. All right. So I don't know. I think that's pretty much it. I think we covered this game too as well.
Yeah, I think we just about covered everything. Both really good games. Yeah, I mean, anything else you want to add?
I don't think so. So we have a few minutes here. How do you want to go with this? We could take some questions from the chat. We could talk about the new coaching hires if you want to. We could talk about the whole Brady situation. What do you want to do to fill this last 7 minutes of the show?
Um, we can let's. Do you want to talk the Brady situation since we actually don't know what's going to happen? Like, I guess that's the
Yeah,
thing I was thinking about.
right. I mean, that's what we would talk about is the situation. So you want to do the new coaching hires?
Sure, we could touch briefly on those.
Sure. Well, let's talk about the one that I haven't given my take on this yet, so it's kind of good. Let's talk about the Josh McDaniels thing, right? I mean, that broke
Yeah.
today. That's kind of an interesting decision.
It is very interesting. It's very interesting based on the fact that there was a lot of conversation about him um, potentially never leaving the Patriots. That basically he is in line for the head coaching job. So I guess the question was that was that opportunity kind of weighing, or was he kind of just saying, you know what, I want to go to an opportunity, I want to take a situation that I feel good about now. No point in waiting for the Patriots job to open up. So he went and took this job. Um, Offensively, I think it's a good fit. I think it's a good fit offensively for what they like to do. I think he's going to like Josh Jacobs. I think he likes the two tight end set. They have two very good tight ends in Foster Moreau and Darren Waller. Um, I guess as a head coach, that's going to be the question. He made the playoffs with Tim Tebow, then struggled a lot of time in Denver. Now he's back as a head coach. I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, but the thing is too is it's like, okay, how much criticism does he get for not being able to perform well enough with Tim Tebow as your quarterback, right? Like, how much is that really fair to put on him? I think is kind of the interesting question. So it's not the move I would have made. I get the logic behind it, right? It does seem like Derek Carr is a great fit in that scheme, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a good fit. I think the personnel you have is a good fit in that scheme. I mean, Hunter Renfro is going to rake in this scheme. He's going to have a lot of success. Um, I think the tight ends, like I said, are going to have a lot of success. I'll be interested to see if they go after like a deep ball option. I think that's the one thing this offense is kind of missing. But yeah, I mean, I think that this offense is going to keep churning, and I think they're going to be very good next season.
Yeah, I think so as well. Yeah, and these things are tough. We can move on to another one if you want. We can go to want to just go to Brian Dabble with the Giants. Is it Dabble or Dable? I still don't know how to say it.
I don't know. I've been saying dabble the whole time.
Yeah, me too. So we'll stick with Dabble. Where it's like again, you look at him. These are actually two guys who were under the Belichick coaching tree. Although obviously Dabble got his, he really got his name out there with the work he did, being the offensive coordinator for the Bills. Sort of, getting Josh Allen, who I know you could argue, yeah, Josh Allen's just an incredible talent, easy to make that work. But the flip side, I think, with Josh Allen is he was certainly not a finished product coming out of college. And so you're able to sort of help him become the quarterback he is now. I'm assuming that's what they're trying to get him to do with Daniel Jones. So again, I see the logic behind it. Who knows if it's going to work, but I see the logic behind it.
Yeah, I guess the interesting question for this is going to be, the question is going to be, did he look at this situation? And we don't know what happened in the interview room. They're not going to tell us. That, was the situation that he views Jones as a similar product to what he can have success with Josh Allen, or are they looking in the new direction? Are they going to go in a new direction and maybe grab one of these guys, or look at the free agency pool or trade pool potentially? That's the first question. It's the first question for every NFL franchise: who's your quarterback? So it's going to be interesting to see how they address that going forward. But I mean, I think this team has a lot of pieces it needs to address. I mean,
Yeah.
like, I know that they had 2 years ago, they had a decent year and almost made the playoffs in that bad division. But at the same time, like, I think that they need a lot of new pieces across this team. I saw something that someone said it's day ball. So we'll see. I mean, listen, I think a lot of these things is like, we don't really know who's a good head coach and who's not a head coach. I get the logic behind the hiring, so I think it makes sense, but we'll see if it works.
Yeah, Brian Dable. Okay, got it. Dable, not dabble. Do not dab. That's the way to remember it.
Okay. It's
I
a
mean,
new day with Brian Dable.
there you go. We're working on it. Yeah. Again, tough situation for him. Hopefully, he can figure it out. Let's go to Denver because I think Denver's interesting. Getting Nathaniel Hackett, who was the Packers offensive coordinator. So obviously, you can put two and two together and say, okay, maybe they're doing this as a way to try to get Rodgers on their side. But I also like this. I kind of like this hire just in general. I like going after these guys who are, younger and have worked in whether it's the Shanahan or just the little floor scheme, McVay, these sort of younger head coaches who basically their mindset is all about deception. It's all about figure out what teams are doing and do the opposite of it. I like that mindset. And so I like to hire even if you don't get Rodgers, but the fact that it could also get you Rodgers is certainly a nice benefit.
Yeah, I mean, so they got Hackett and they also got the quarterback coaches, I believe, is the offensive coordinator now. So, and this
Okay.
was maybe the biggest rumored team for Rodgers before, even last season, or this past season. This was the biggest rumored team. So obviously that's going to stroke the flames a little bit. Yeah, I mean, once again, this is another team where I completely get the logic behind the hire. I get the logic, and I mean, the track record for success with this group now is pretty big. We talked about it with, you know, McVay, Shanahan, Zach Taylor, Kingsbury, all these guys coached in the playoffs, LaFleur, all these guys coached in the playoffs, all these guys had success. So I get the logic behind it. It'll be interesting to see how they address this team. I mean, I think this defense is going to be good. So I think that they, hire a good defensive coordinator. You got the defensive pieces in place. Once again, the next part of this team is figuring out your quarterback situation. I think once they figure that out, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I get the logic behind the hire, though.
Yeah, I agree. And then, yeah, and then we can move on to, I guess, the final one. We can talk about Matt Eberflus, I believe is how you say it. I knew how to say it. I had it written down. Maybe I'll go back. But he's interesting. So he's the new Chicago Bears head coach, who was the defensive coordinator for Indianapolis for the past few years. He's worked in a lot of different systems, has a good amount of experience, and I kind of like this hire. I think the Colts defensive, has been very well coached. It seems these past few years. So that I like that. The X's and O's seem to be good. Obviously, the flip side is people are wondering, how is this going to help Justin Fields? Why don't you go after an offensive guy? Where the reason why you'd rather go after an offensive guy if you have a quarterback who needs some developing is you just get your pick of the litter, basically. Whereas now, the new offensive coordinator is going to be Luke Getsy, who doesn't seem to have a ton of experience here. So because of that, that's kind of the, if you went for an offensive guy, you could have had maybe like Eric Bieniemy being the guy who could do it. Whereas now you don't get that pick. But that being said, I do think he should be pretty solid. And I don't hate this hire, even though I understand the initial criticisms of it.
Oh, yeah, I guess I had it wrong. I thought Getsy went to the Broncos for some reason, but it is the
Okay.
Bears.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think the Colts defense, like you said, has been well coached. I think that they're doing a good job. And I think this is a pretty good hire. We'll see what happens. I think that the problem I have is that the narrative is out that all of a sudden, like, defensive coaches can't have success with quarterbacks and
Right.
offenses.
Mm-hmm.
And this was something I took to Twitter and I was pretty strongly against. And it's just like good head coaches coach both sides of the football. Like this is
Mm-hmm.
the job is it's a step up, the job is a promotion, and with a
Mm-hmm.
promotion you have new responsibilities in different situations. I don't want to hire a coach to be an offensive coordinator as my head coach. I want my
Right.
head coach to be my head coach and understand everything that's going on in the football field. So I think that the problem I have with this, and it's up to him to make those hires and make the right hires to help your
Mm-hmm.
personnel succeed. So, and then, you just get into the thing and it's like, okay, uh, Bill Belichick has had a lot of successful offenses, defensive head coach. Mike Tomlin has had a lot of successful offenses, defensive head coach. Jim Harbaugh was never an offensive coach, successful head coach with good offenses. You
Mm-hmm.
go, and all of those guys played a part in developing quarterbacks too, and having quarterbacks develop with them at the helm. So I think that adds to it too. I just, and a lot of those guys too also had offensive coordinators who were not world renowned offensive coordinators at the time that came into their system and it kind of worked. So I think that it could be a good hire. It may not could be a good hire, but at the same time, like, I don't think him having a defensive background is a problem for me.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't ran the numbers on if it's better to have an offensive or defensive coach, but you're definitely right. I mean, you could think about it one way and say, well, look at, a lot of offensive guys seemingly were the guys in the playoffs this year, but I also think there's more offensive guys than defensive guys in the NFL right now. Could be
There
wrong about
is.
that. But yeah, for every, yes, sure, Mahomes was under Andy Reid, but right, like you said, like Lamar Jackson was under Harbaugh. So, and Josh
Sean
Allen.
McDermott.
Yeah, exactly. So we were right there. So it definitely. I mean, and Tua was under a defensive guy, and he's on the verge of winning some MVPs in the near future. So yeah, that too.
You just want Dolphins fans to hate us at this point. I mean,
A little
yeah.
maybe. Well,
So
Tua did a nice thing, and Tua had a bad couple of final weeks, which makes it a lot. Or he had a bad game against the Titans, which is going to make my Tua jokes a lot easier.
yeah, uh, whatever. But at the same time, it'll be interesting to see how they develop with Fields. But I don't think the head coach hiring is going to determine if Justin Fields is good or not. And not to
Hmm.
mention, this is a team that just hired recently, as in the last coaches.
Hmm.
They just hired Matt Nagy and Mark Trestman as these offensive gurus who are going to be the savior of offense for the Chicago Bears.
Hmm.
Neither one of those guys worked out. So maybe
Hmm.
trying something a little different might work.
Yeah, I think I agree. And again, we just don't know what's in the interview. We don't. There's so much
No.
we don't know. That's why I always, I'm fascinated by these head coaching hires, and I get sort of the reactions. But like, I always think about it. It feels like for every one hire that we say, oh, that's brilliant, it ends up sucking, and for every hire we say, oh, that's a mess, it ends up working out. Nobody knows anything.
Yeah, I think a lot of people potentially like the idea of the Urban Meyer hiring, and that didn't work out.
Yeah.
And I
Hmm.
think the thing is like I don't know, like I'm willing to say that the data would support that it's kind of a crapshoot on who you hire as a head coach, whether it's successful or not. Like,
Hmm.
I don't think an offensive guy all of a sudden will lead to amazing offenses consistently. And I don't think a
Hmm.
defensive guy will necessarily lead to bad offenses all the time and poor success. I think it'll just basically say it doesn't really matter what it is. I think the head coach, has to do a good job of hiring people on his staff to kind of delegate and also do
Hmm.
a good job with this team and leading them. And I think it's kind of a crapshoot.
Yeah, at the end of the day, having talented football players is what wins football games, not having great head coaches. Head coaches matter, coaching matters. It does make a difference, of course, but the players are what's going to get it done, not the head coaches.
Yeah. So
Hmm. All right. Well, Kyle, that's our show.
that's the show. We
Hmm.
have just a couple more until Super Bowl. What Super Bowl are we at now? 54?
56.
Wow, I'm losing
You
it.
were way off.
I can't remember Super Bowl numbers anymore.
Yeah.
I
What I
say it's
mean.
the Super Bowl 2022. I don't go by
Hmm.
the numbers anymore. The last one I remember counting was Super Bowl 39. And then from there, I'm like, okay, beyond 40, I'm good.
Oh, see, around like I know because 40, yeah, because 49 was the Seahawks, and then 50 was the Broncos, and then 51 was Seahawks lost to the Patriots. 51 was that was the 28-3 game. So I think those three I have down because it was like Brady, Manning, Brady.
Yeah. Well, the funny one with Super Bowl 50 was that they were potentially going to do Super Bowl L, and then they changed it.
Right. Yeah, they
That
just
was
did 50 for that. Which, by the way, I'm also in favor of like, let's get rid of these Roman numerals. Let's just put the actual number there.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of neat. It's a different thing, but at the same time, like I get it too. So,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Like it's not even just the Roman numerals. I guess if it said Super Bowl 56 over and over again, I would
Mm-hmm.
know.
Right.
I don't even refer to as I just say Super Bowl now.
Yeah. I'll say this though. I'm a fan of how we number the Super Bowls. I like that. There's no other sport where we don't do it. This is Stanley Cup final, 103 or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, some people will say the number, but at the same time, like nobody keeps it in their recollection. Like it's like
Right.
World Series number. I remember they had the World Series number 2 years ago or something. Um,
I don't remember.
but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, no one would ever say, "Oh, remember World Series '97? Oh man, what a game!" You'd be like, "What are you?" Or what a series? You'd be like, "What are you talking about? Which one was that? What year?"
97 would be like 30 years ago.
Yeah. So, yeah, fun stuff. Kyle, let them know where they can find us on Twitter before we head out.
Make sure to follow us on Twitter. That is at Jackson Kruger. Make
Nailed
sure to
it.
follow me at by Kyle Gronin, and make sure to follow the account page at On the Sideline JK. That's at On the Sideline JK on Twitter.
Yes, of course. As always, we have the audio only file anywhere you get your podcast. Check that out if you like to listen to podcast audio only. It should be available anywhere there. Yeah. So I guess that's it, Kyle. Well, here, let's do this. There's a bit of a programming thing to talk about. We'll do it live on air. I like doing this sometimes. Here's an idea I had for a podcast because we're debating. We have 3 shows to fill. One of them will do our in-depth Super Bowl preview. One of them, like last year, we're going to do a draft of predicting who's going to win Super Bowl MVP. I had an idea for the third one.
Okay.
What if we did why every team that didn't make the Super Bowl didn't make the Super Bowl? So basically, you could get the AFC, I'll get the NFC, and we each, we plan out ahead of time. Like I get the NFC, I figure, okay, why did the Cowboys not make the Super Bowl? Why did the Washington football team not make the Super Bowl? And just do that. Where did each team go wrong? And then we could do a show on that. How do you feel about that?
That sounds good. So we're going to prepare that for Wednesday.
Sure, we'll do that for Wednesday. And then this Sunday, want to keep it at 11 o'clock? Or do you want to do it earlier?
11's fine with me. I don't have anything to do.
Sure. Okay, good. Yeah, so we'll do it 11 o'clock. And plus, I think there's the Pro Bowl then as well, right?
Oh, yeah, that thing. Mac Jones, Pro Bowler. So I got to get ready for that.
Imagine how good the Bengals would be if they had a Pro Bowl quarterback.
I know, right? Couldn't match us.
Yeah, and then yeah, and then so 11 o'clock, a week from today, we'll be talking some Pro Bowl maybe, and then mostly talking about the Pro Bowl is at 3 o'clock Sunday, February 6th. So touch on that and then do the draft of who will win Super Bowl MVP and follow it up with our Super Bowl prediction show, which Kyle, I'm in the driver's seat now in these picks. That Bengals pick was the key one.
Yeah, I need like an exorcism or something because I am 0 for 6 in my last 6 playoff picks. It has not been a good run for me.
Hey, maybe for the best, you don't have to pick the Super Bowl now. It's out of your hands at this point.
Yeah, I mean that's the best thing I have going for me, probably. So yeah, I need something to go right.
Listen, I'm 1 for 5. I'm not doing much better. These past
Well, the thing is
go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say I'm 0-6, but at the same time, like literally every one of these games is decided by 3 points, and I'm like, okay, I see like 10 different scenarios where the team I picked win this game. So I'm like, okay, I don't feel that bad about myself because I've been close on it basically all of these, and I'm sure there's other people who are having the same situation. But it's crazy to see this and just be like, I keep losing these.
Yeah, what's funny is like I feel like a lot of times too, like when we preview these games, what we say is going to happen almost exactly happens. But then like, okay, the 49ers block a punt, get a touchdown, and then they win. It's like it'll be something, it keeps slightly going in the other way.
I mean, the Chiefs are up 21-3. How did I have to feel bad about that? It's just playoff football's crazy, man.
Just incredible stuff. So yes, should be fun. Everyone be on the lookout for all the good stuff. I have plenty of content coming out these next 2 weeks heating up. Kyle, any final thoughts before we head out?
No, I think we're good. We can leave now.
Okay. All right. Bye.
All right. Peace.
Okay, that's fun enough. See you later, alligator.
Peace.